What's this? Ben from PressTube is casting a Viking sword. 3D printed in 2 halves. Those are the 2 outer faces. Each one needs to have every last detail, from the blade to the hilt to that butt at the end, carefully captured. And to do that, it's pressed down in an absolute ton of fine red casting sand. Check out the size of that sword. Nice and long. Now captured 1/2 in this case. Time to flip it over and attach the other face. Some strong glue, a few weights, and once the glue is set, a repeat process of dusting down the surface to ensure that fine red casting sand doesn't stick but does still capture all those details. Sifted on at first, then bigger chunks and handfuls are dumped on, smoothed out before being pressed down, and that's just half the case full. It keeps on coming, being compacted and pressed down, and at last the surface can be cleaned up and the case can be cracked open to remove the original. Now the idea that perfect impression of a sword can be filled up with molten metal. For that to happen, some channels will need to be carved out for the metal to be poured into, to flow into, and out of. Difficult to gauge exactly how much metal will be needed, so it's important that there is an outlet. Otherwise, that excess metal and all that heat have got nowhere to go and can cause the actual casing to crack and the cast to go awry. With the impression and mold ready, it's time to melt down some aluminum. A few rods dropped into that intensely hot, melting furnace, and just look at them go, softening, bending, and eventually disappearing. A little bit of the excess poured into some preheated ingot molds. They've got to be preheated, otherwise that cold metal in contact with the incredibly hot molten metal could cause some splashback. And look at that. As if using a melting furnace wasn't dangerous enough. Some of the impurities quickly removed, and then it's time to pour all the molten metal into this case. The excess can then be dumped into that one remaining ingot mold. And look at it. Like a silver loaf of bread, hotter than any bread's been. The excess now quickly pulled away while still a little soft. And once cooled down, the case is cracked open. Take a look at that. The amazing detail has been captured, but it'll need to be cleaned up to be sure. And to start, after a quick wash down, it's sand blasted to get rid of some of that fine, charred black sand embedded in the surface. From there, locked into a vise and the angle grinder used to help smooth out some of those lines, some of those scratches, and then a classic wet sand to really smooth it out and create a beautiful finish with a polish and buff. Now to take on the Vikings' longtime enemy, tropical fruit. Another incredible cast from Ben over at PressTube.